Fair trade towns, let me speak more broadly. First of all, fair trade towns is a rapidly growing movement that's helping concerned citizens and consumers all over the country find a way to get more involved. So what we've discovered is that a lot of people want to do more than just buy fair trade products and kind of support farmers around the world through that purchase. But in fact, a lot of people want to go above and beyond that and get engaged, get involved, spread the word. And Fair Trade Towns is a great way to do that. So the Fair Trade Towns movement gives people a chance to hold events and promote fair trade products and get local store owners more involved, get local store owners to offer more products. So it's a fairly new movement. Here in the United States, Fair Trade Towns has only been around for 3 years. But Madison, as you might guess, is once again a pioneer in getting involved very early on in organizing a Fair Trade Town here. So students have kind of been at the cutting edge of social movements in our country for a long time, right? If you think about any and every social movement that's ever emerged in this country, it seems to have had its roots in one way or another in the student movement, and fair trade is no different. Since we launched the Fair Trade label in 1998, campuses around the country have gotten involved, and students have found in fair trade a new model of activism. A lot of student activism historically has always been about fighting something that we opposed, right? Fighting a bad. But fair trade is this powerful, positive alternative that you can actually support and that complements, some of the other kinds of activism that often go on campus. And so, and furthermore, fair trade kind of attracts a new breed of activists on campuses, namely students who want to be a part of something positive and uplifting and perhaps not quite so radical. So here in Madison and on over 700 campuses around the country, students have started to organize, and their ask is, can we get fair trade products into our university dining hall? Can we get fair trade products into our cafes? Fair trade coffee, fair trade tea, fair trade bananas are now regularly served in hundreds of campuses nationwide as a direct result of students asking for it. It's funny how business works. Businesses are very customer driven, and if customers ask for something, businesses typically want to respond. So dining hall administrators around the country have been pretty quick to respond to students asking for fair trade products to be served in local dining halls. It doesn't take a sit-in or a demonstration or even a petition or a letter writing campaign to get universities to respond. Now, why is this important? Companies in America really look to young consumers as trendsetters. And so when young consumers and kids on college campuses around the country get hip to fair trade and start asking for it, companies look at that as an indication of what's to come and what's going to be big. And so we've had a number of cases where major coffee companies, for example, were not involved in fair trade, and so then some of the college accounts where their coffee was sold started to ask for fair trade, and as a result, those companies not only provided fair trade to those colleges, but started to offer it much more broadly in grocery and other channels. So what that suggests to me is that students have the ability to start a domino effect that can have a truly transcendental impact on how the fair trade market evolves, and therefore on the lives of farmers all over the world. I mean, at the end of the day, fair trade is all about changing lives, lifting farmers out of poverty, and helping to sustain the environment where they're growing their products. And so what we found is that students have a very powerful role to play in that movement. So, on this theme of the new generation of activists, I think when I was a student, business was seen by a lot of activists as the enemy or as the problem. And so the social movement or the movement for change really was in no way engaged with the business community or with entrepreneurship. I think times have changed. And specifically, I think today's social activist and today's student realizes increasingly that partnership with companies and market-based approaches, more generally speaking, are often needed in order to solve social or environmental problems. And my own experience working overseas with farmers in the mountains of Nicaragua led me to believe that perhaps the most powerful way that we could help empower those farmers to improve their lives was to connect them directly to the market, right? And to try and find partners and allies in the business community that would pay a better price and work directly with those farmers. So in fact, that partnership with the business community really enabled farmers to rise out of poverty. So in some ways, I would say fair trade kind of lives at the intersection of the social justice movement and the business community. And it's in that intersection where great things are happening for farmers and their families around the world, but also for us as consumers, as citizens here, who are looking for ways to make a difference and finding that through something as simple and easy as a daily cup of coffee, we can actually reach halfway across the world and help a farming family keep their kids in school. The reality is that campus activism around the sweatshop issue is a big part of what's making companies sit up and take notice and try and do something. So, if you look at the last 20 or 30 years of anti-sweatshop activism, both on campuses around the country and beyond, you see that there's actually been a significant impact. Right? Companies can no longer afford to do nothing. Now, I'm sure most companies aren't doing enough, perhaps, but there's a journey there. And I've had a chance to visit a lot of apparel factories just in the last few years as we've started to explore the possibility of fair trade apparel. And I talk to workers who talk about the bad old days when working conditions were much worse and when pay was much lower and when people were summarily fired if they ever talked about organizing a union, for example. And how slowly but surely things are starting to improve as the brands, as the companies start to ask for more transparency at the factory level and for better conditions. Is it enough? Absolutely not. Do we have a long way to go? Absolutely. And so I applaud campus groups here and anywhere who are focusing on this issue and educating people about the issue. I think there are a lot of ways to approach this, and obviously, when fair trade looks at apparel, what we're trying to do is give consumers a very specific way to make their purchases matter through the fair trade label, which indicates that whether it's on a bag of coffee or a bunch of bananas or a chocolate bar or a shirt, it indicates to you as a buyer, as a consumer, that the farmer or the worker got more money. That's the bottom line. The farmer and the worker were treated with greater respect, had a better wage, and hopefully are on a journey out of poverty. So that's our piece in that broader movement. But obviously the industry is huge, and it's changing really slowly. And I totally get the impatience of those who want to see more change and sooner.